Faith. Allegiance to a duty or a person. A sincerity of intentions. Some synonyms that I found to really be close, sit close, obviously, well, for two reasons. First off, they're synonyms, so they abide by similar rules. But secondly, that a lot of these words also sit near and dear to the journey that I'm currently going on. And that's commitment, dedication, loyalty, steadfastness, and constancy. Not consistency. Constancy. Now, faith today is something that I want to discuss in this particular manner of definition. I think faith in the spiritual manner is something that I need to leave for a future day. But that does not mean that I cannot discuss how I see faith and how I use faith in not only what I'm trying to accomplish with myself, my mind, and my body, but also the faith in others, the faith in the ones that we love, the faith in our community, the faith that we place in progressing and evolving ourself, the ones we love in our community, but ultimately shaping ourselves into a positive resemblance of one within the realm of all. That's what the series is all about, is finding harmony in the imperfections of humans, of self. And especially when we procure ourselves in mass. So, but today I wanted to talk about faith and what it means to, and especially in the first definition, allegiance to a duty or a person. So in this case here with impossible performance, obviously the duty that we could tag here is serving others, or allegiance to a person. And I believe that in the face of forming an allegiance to a person, it has to start with you, as does most philosophical thought of how to make the most positive impact on all is through the evolution and the ultimate goal of achieving the most that you can for yourself and becoming the best version of yourself to then be a force for good. So, first off, I'd like to discuss and ask a question. So we'll kind of do a past, present, and future outlook on faith and how I deem it, what I deem it to, or not how I deem it, but what I deem it to be able to offer, and my experiences with it. So the first is, what past experiences have allowed us to understand what faith is? So in other terms, what trials have you faced in the past that have truly tested your strength and resolve? Now, for myself, for those of you who have been following, but those of you that may be new, since February 11th of 2022, I have been battling a seemingly unlimited but constant war against Hodgkin's lymphoma. The specific subtype is nodular sclerosis classic Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a type of blood cancer, but in my case, this is a mutation within your immune system, within particular CD proteins that are within your immune system. And in my case, I was CD4 dominant and it's like CD4 dominant, but then also spiked in CD30. So the past almost 3.5 years now. So I've been battling this. And so with a cancer diagnosis at the age of 26 being, for me, a worthy trial that I've faced, currently facing, and could continue to face, if things don't go my way. What has faith done for me in facing these tests, facing these trials, to ultimately, either you've come out weaker or you've come out stronger. Either your resolve has waned or your resolve has flourished and only gotten, or your resolve has only reached a higher peak, I guess, in good faith towards the mountains beside me. So beautiful they are, yes. So, thinking about how do we understand faith, what it has served us and how it has served us in the past, and how do we see faith? How can we understand faith from these past trials? And I would say a couple of the synonyms that I want to point out here for this part they are words that would certainly be the testament to what I've come to rely upon, I would say, in trying to understand what faith means to me. So the first one is steadfast. And in times to where the winds have seemed to be unfavorable for me in the past 3.5 years, I have done my absolute best to stand tall, stand firm against these unfavorable winds. Sometimes you turn to the side, sometimes you turn your back to them, and you just hold yourself in place. But the majority of the time, I feel that I have been able to face the storm and push my way through it, knowing that the more I charge into the storm, hopefully, the sooner it will be over. And that sort of analogy, that prospect, I would say has taken many different forms over the past few years. And originally I would have said that facing the storm was simply trying to get through the day. And when you're on heavier doses of chemo, that's pretty much all you have. That's all you got. Excuse me. Is realizing that you're not going to feel any better. Tomorrow you're probably going to feel worse. And then you'll start to feel better a little bit, maybe. But then you go in for another dose, depending on your regimen, which there are hundreds of different types of regimens for the different cancer types, obviously. So I can only speak upon the Hodgkin's lymphoma side. the side that has relapsed 3 separate times. So things have certainly gotten a bit more difficult, but honestly demeaning. Wanting you to, when you're facing that storm, wanting you to fall to your knees and beg for it to stop. That certainly is a couple of moments I would say I may have succumbed to that pressure, but maybe succumbed is not the right term for that. I would say I've felt, I was aware, and I gave the feeling just a fleeting moment, a fleeting moments of awareness from self, and seeing what that pressure was like, feeling that pressure, and yeah, not succumbing to it. I did not succumb to it because, well, I'm still here for now, and so earlier in my time with chemo, I would say that charging into the storm, I was not aware, even remotely, to the strength and the resolve that was within me, but simply had not been practiced yet. That had not been even within the realm of potential, of a potentiality within me that I had, that I had thought of, that I could have even guessed. And that was something extremely beautiful for me to experience over time, coming into the most recent round of treatment, with the bone marrow transplant, that steadfastness and steadfastness, staying steady, staying steadfast in facing the very unfavorable winds, especially when it came to the bone marrow transplant. That was a dosage of chemo that that I wouldn't wish upon anybody. So, to be blunt, and to then, so we're at the bone marrow transplant this past winter, and my idea of faith in terms of staying steadfast, in terms of resilience, resolve, and strength, because of my past experiences, I had a new understanding of faith going into the bone marrow transplant, going into a time of where we didn't have a whole lot of answers, had one hell of a lot of questions, pun intended, and not necessarily went in blind. I don't want to insinuate that, but when you go into such a regimen, you do have to question some things that you're not going to get answers to, because you don't know how things are just going to go. You don't know how your body is going to react to this 7 days in a row of chemo, 6 days in a row. 6 days of chemo in a row. In my particular case, going through the BEAM regimen, BEAM. What are the medications that those 4 letters stand for? Way too many syllables. I should have written them down. Note for the next time I talk about this. Anyways. So coming to the bone marrow transplant, having those past experiences of going through the trials, seeing how strong I was, seeing how quickly and how but also how intensely I could stand back up. What that resolve, where that resolve was sitting in terms of its potency within me, I feel is is what had drastically changed from the summer of 2022, where I would say I was probably in the worst shape mentally, to then go through my second relapse in Houston by myself for 6 weeks, 5.5, 6 weeks. Facing that basically alone, by choice. We certainly had different, had a misunderstanding in aspirations for that route. And then to come into the bone marrow transplant, I had already had a year and a half of an idea of what the bone marrow transplant looked like, because it was a possibility for my second relapse the time I was in Houston. To now coming into it, I knew where I was. I knew where I stood. I knew how I stood. And I knew why I was standing. The unfavorable winds, the gusts of despair and disdain, had looked upon me and said, Austin, I hope you're ready. Because the inevitable is coming. You're going to have to face this, or you will fall apart. And I stood there accepting that, accepting the inevitability of going through a really harsh regimen of chemo that not only caused pain for a month, had residual side effects for 3 to 6 months that I'm just now coming off of. I mean, this was the beginning of December, and I would say that I'm probably 95 to 99% of the way recovered from those 6 days of chemo, but then also has permanent repercussions. And being 29, turning 30, over the past 6 months, I have, it's difficult dealing with the possibility of infertility. I have found so much more of Austin, and I've said this many times over the past few months, but I've discovered, I kept digging through the past 3.5 years. I kept digging, and I would dig some more, and find so many hidden gems of which I had never even imagined being there. But also some very harsh truths. Some very difficult concepts to grasp of what reality had ultimately meant for me, but how it had shaped me. But ultimately, exposing myself to myself. And of those permanent consequences that may not be permanent. I mean, I don't need to sound like I'm in total despair, because I'm not. I know that being 30 and going through this, that the permanent infertility may not be permanent. The infertility may be temporary. But the Austin that I have found in the past 6 months have led me into a world of being so goddamned excited to be a parent. Not only to share what I've experienced over the past 30 years, sure. But I would say over the past 8 to 10 years in my travels, which is what I'm trying to pass down to those below me in the family tree, but of what I learned in the past 3.5 years of how keeping that loyalty to self through the most difficult times, staying steadfast against unfavorable winds, I want to pass that down. I know things can happen, but I want my children to grow up knowing that they can do anything as long as they are willing to stay dedicated to self, to stay loyal to self, and to stay loyal to those who love them and that they love. Because it can be a very beautiful thing, life, reality, your experience. It can be extremely beautiful in those times of gut-wrenching trials. Seemingly unjustifiable transgressions being committed upon you, especially in times where you have no idea what you had done to deserve it, or how it even came to be. I will never know. Maybe never, but at the moment, there is absolutely no hint towards me gaining an understanding and finding a person or thing, in this matter thing, to blame for me being diagnosed with cancer, for the mutation occurring in my body. We have a good idea, but we don't know. And so I've had to put a lot of faith. I've had to battle with faith, and I've had to evolve that term within my mind for quite some time. And that's what the past experiences and trials have allowed me to accomplish in my understanding, in my definition of faith. To now. Where do we stand now? Where and what does faith do for us? What does it do to self? And what does it do to those that we love? Commitment, service, purpose to the betterment of self and to all, and of all. Yeah. So what does faith mean to me now? Faith to me now is the commitment, the dedication, and the loyalty that I have stretched to beyond self, to those of whom I love, to those that I love, that I will love in the future, aka my family, and, well, immediate family. I do have family now too. Yeah. And to serving this purpose with impossible performance and bettering whoever that we're able to reach out to. Faith for me now stands as the sacraments that I've achieved in the past to the most recent edited doctrine that I may follow at the moment, is that I have been put through a lot, but I've also seen a lot. I've experienced quite a bit. I've dove into cultures in other countries that my family prior to me has never seen. I talked to people that I will never see again, who either lit up my day, lit up my month, or had somewhat of a positive impact on the rest of my life. To now, myself making it my purpose and dedicating myself to passing that on. Passing it on to those who need a little bit of help. Here, there, back there, over there. However, as I've said many times before, and I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it, is that I hope this finds you in some way, in some fashion, in some manner that can help. And it can be with one little aspect. It can be with a plethora of ideas and challenges. And I mean, for me, the more the merrier. I mean, that's fantastic, but I'm not here to rewrite how reality should be experienced necessarily. I'm here to explore with you, with myself, with those that I love, and with you, on what faith and how faith in others, what that could possibly achieve. And I feel that of past trials, my current representation of faith is that I believe in humans evolving into something even more beautiful than what we are now. And it may not, I wouldn't say that it's a lack of beauty currently, that the beauty of which I'm hoping to strive for within the next however many years I get to live, and maybe just maybe the future can that I can provide for, or the future that I hope to provide for in terms of what I leave behind, is that the beauty is already there. The beauty is already in us. And all I want to do is provide optional channels for you and for everyone to find a way of exposing that beauty to the brightest and highest potential that you can. And so what faith means to me in this moment is doing my absolute best in serving and chasing and in pursuing a purpose that is not just for me, but it is beyond me. It is not just for self, it is for as many people that we can possibly reach out to. And so that takes us to, where can faith take us in the pursuit of the impossible? And that, the one synonym I want to kind of bring up now, sorry, I'm an absolute mess right now. So where can faith take us in the pursuit of the impossible. And the synonym of faith that I found most connected to this idea of how to serve best for the future is constancy. You have consistency, but you also have constancy. Constancy is steadfast in mind under duress. And a synonym for that, another one I love, is fortitude. So constancy can be a weapon, can be used as a weapon for good. In the definition there, I absolutely love it. Steadfast of mind under duress, under stress. And that is born, that is procured from what we've experienced in the past and how we shape within the present to going towards the future, to pursuing the impossible, and what we can do under times of stress, or maybe not under times of stress. Maybe you're in a spell of really good luck and things are going well and it's just full steam ahead. That's awesome. That is awesome to hear. I'm happy that you were within that setting, but we all know that can be gone in the flick of a hat. So enjoy it while you can, but realize that the fortitude that you have built up over time, putting you in that position now, requires careful analyzation and ultimately a recognition of self from prior experiences. And that is where I feel constancy can be a really good weapon for the future, for enacting upon what is good. And that is bettering yourself to then serve others. And pursuing the impossible is what has given me the opportunity to... I already had my passions down. My passions were there. It was to serve others in a way, in some manner. I needed to be chasing that purpose of duty in order to, sure, feel fulfilled, but it's more of just it needs to be done. Being in service in others in some manner, of some fashion, is for me required, and that comes from my faith in humanity. That comes from my experiences, and that comes from the growth that I've gone through and hope to continue to allow myself to experience, and ultimately within my faith of humanity, that pursuing something impossible will ultimately garner you something absolutely wild. Maybe that of your dreams, or even beyond them. Because I will say I have slipped... No. I have moved beyond with intent. I have moved beyond taking my dreams and relying upon them to know and to feel and to hope for a better tomorrow. I've moved beyond allowing those dreams being the dictator, the controller of how tomorrow goes. For me. Because I now realize what it means to live that dream. To be fully engulfed in a mindset, an idea, a concept that is unrelenting in its pursuit of moving forward to something better, to something good, to something that's ultimately positive for self and for all. And that's where constancy comes in for me. And not just consistency of action, but constancy of self under duress, fortitude. The act of staying steadfast in unfavorable winds. Which reminds me of that incredible quote by Seneca, is that if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. And so faith for me, faith in humanity, faith in not only bettering self, but progressing self, evolving self. For self, but also for others. Faith has been a word that I have struggled mightily for quite some time. I mean, I would say that would go back 10, 12 years now. And yes, there's a completely... Not a completely. There is a... How would you call that? There's a different perspective. There's a different idea. There's a different concept of faith that I'm skipping over here, as I prefaced earlier. What I wanted to focus on today was and possibly exposing some of myself, is that right now my main concern, my main priority, and I would say probably my only priority in terms of faith and in any of its definitions. For me right now, the defining aspect of faith for me is serving others through myself, through bettering myself, through evolving myself into what I could potentially become and more, and going beyond in service to others, in pursuing that purpose that for me deems to be worthy. And that has evolved over time. Very much so. Very, very much so. And that's okay. That's fine. What's the saying? We live and we learn. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm trying to learn to my best ability of what is not only best for myself, but best for others. What can I say? What can I do? How can I demonstrate what I have found and what I continue to find in that frame of constancy that is going to ultimately be my best idea as to what pursuing the impossible means and what it should look like. And I'm grateful that I found myself on this path, I know that there is a lot of work to be done. And I promise you that on this climb, I'm having so much fun. One who falters not in the presence of their mountain will truly command the flame of their impossible. That is a quote by me. So, I wrote that up for today's podcast. And that wraps up today's podcast. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you gathered something from that and from all of our future episodes. If you have missed any episodes in the past, on YouTube, we go back pretty far, but on the podcast platforms of Spotify, Apple, we go back all the way to the beginning. And catch up, and hopefully you find something beneficial for the situation that you're in right now. Or you're just tuning in to see my pretty face. I doubt the latter, but we'll move on. So again, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Because us here at Impossible Performance are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. Take care, and as always, be impossible.